Hi everyone, it's Janelle from Hustling Hotties, host of the Big Dreamer series, and I'm here with Alaia Willaims, owner of One Organized Business. Hi Alaia, how are you?
Hi, Janelle. Happy to be here. I'm good.
Oh, good, thank you. Can you tell us what you do with One Organized Business?
Yeah, I am a business system strategist and organizer. And the, layman's terms for what that means is I help people organize their business, usually by helping them put systems and processes in place that help them keep things organized, get things automated, and really help strengthen the foundation of their business.
Yeah, I feel like what you do is really needed because there's a lot of people that are very unorganized and then they kind of lose function of their business and get swept into their business instead of working on their business. So I like what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something I did along the way too. This isn't even how I got started in business, but I learned a lot from my mistakes and also working with a lot of clients early on that were business owners. I was seeing the mistakes that they were making and the steps that they were skipping,
Mhm.
and that really helped shape the trajectory of my business. I started out organizing homes and offices, so I was in people's physical space, helping them get rid of clutter and stuff like that. And so I got to talk to a lot of people, learn a lot about their lives. And I was also running a networking group at the time, and so I was around entrepreneurs a lot, and seeing what I had missed and seeing what my clients were missing and what they really needed, that helped shape what I do. And now I've been focusing on this system stuff for several years, and it's pretty interesting to see how many people need the help of me or somebody like me.
Yeah, definitely. It's a must needed skill, definitely.
Mhm.
So what strategies have you put in place to get your business as successful as it is?
Wow, I've done a lot of things. There was a lot of experimentation along the way. As I mentioned, I've been doing this for a while. So since day one, it's been just over 12 years. I just hit my 12-year entrepreneurial
Wow,
birthday.
congrats.
Thank you. And, I was doing the organizing for about 4 years. And so the system stuff has been 8. And, there have been things along the way that have helped me. One of the tips I got early on when I was doing organizing was to change the way I price. And I hadn't really thought about it. I was billing by the hour, and I had finally gotten to a place where I was okay with the hourly rate that I was charging. A lot of people, women in particular, tend to undercharge. And so that was a process in and of itself. And so I finally, got to a place where I was charging a rate that I was happy with, but I still didn't feel like I was making the kind of money that I should be making. And
Mhm.
I ended up talking to a coach after some event that she did, and she's like, well, maybe you should try packages instead of charging hourly. And something as simple like that changed the trajectory of my business. It meant that I was getting more money up front from clients, but also the clients would stick around longer because, again, I was working with disorganized people who were dealing with overwhelm, shame, guilt, all kinds of stuff. And so billing hourly, I get a lot of people who, wouldn't make their next appointment or wouldn't complete a project. And so if they bought into, a 10-hour package, they'd want to make sure that they used all 10 hours. And then at that point, either the project was done or we'd have done enough that they're like, okay, I want to do more. And so packages, changing my pricing really helped. And then diversifying my income, like once I moved over toward the system side of things, diversifying my income and thinking, what are other ways that I can make money other than just one-on-one, one
Mm,
person at a time services, that
mhm.
has really changed my business as well.
So making your business scalable is what you did after you're working one-on-one. And if you could explain to everybody what scalable is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think the most important thing, if you're thinking about scaling is basically growing your business at at a reasonable rate and pace, right? Like there are companies that think that they're ready to scale, and like I've worked at or with startups like this where they have a bunch of people and they have a product that people kind of like, and so they're like, okay, we're going to hire a ton more people and do all this fancy stuff and give everybody all these benefits and take the company on all these fancy trips. And then they scale up, hire a ton of people, and then they don't get the sales to match what they're spending. And
Hmm.
so that is not great scale. They're scaling too fast. And I've seen companies go out of business in that way. Same thing. I know someone who is a publicist, and she got one of her clients who makes jewelry, like handmade pieces, into People magazine, which anyone would think is great. You know, like people who sell products, people want to be in People magazine. But the woman had so much demand that she couldn't keep up with the orders that came in, and she ended up going out of business. So again, she wasn't quite ready for the press that she had. And so scale is not just about growth, it's about growing at the right pace and in the right ways. So for me, scaling my business does not mean 100 new customers, because I'm the primary person working in my business. I can't work with 100 people at a time, one-on-one. So I had to think of ways to scale my business that didn't involve me spending an hour with you, even though that's my favorite part of what I do. You know, I had to think of what are ways I can be making money outside of this so that I can still do the things that are my favorite. And the first thing that came to me, because as I mentioned, I had a networking group, the first thing was hosting events. And they were networking type events. And I did that for 5 or 6 years. And then specifically a women's business conference grew out of that. And so that became something else to monetize. But it started with events. And then I started teaching group classes and workshops. I branched into things like digital products, physical products. Sometimes I get paid to speak. I do a lot of free speaking, but I also get paid to speak at some events. There's affiliate marketing. There are a host of things that people can do. And I don't necessarily recommend, especially if you're like a one person or really small shop, that you adopt all of those things at once. And you may hate some of those things, but you know, I think the key for me has been thinking about what I like, thinking about what I can take on at the time, and starting to do that, right? So I did the events for years before I had any kind of product, and people kept telling me, you need a product, you need a product, you need a product. And I knew that they were right, but it wasn't right for me at the time. And then I did start offering digital products. And then 3 years ago, I created my first physical product. And, you know, so I've scaled my business a little bit at a time so that now most of my income is still through one-on-one services, but I'm also getting income through, and if I counted it correctly, every time I give a talk on diversifying my income, I have to recount, but I think I'm getting income in about seven different ways without diluting what I actually do. Like it's all related to the core of my business.
Nice. So you have seven different passive streams of income.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. So what's one goal that you set for yourself, like an outrageous goal that you set that you've accomplished?
You know, it's funny. I don't tend to think of my goals as really outrageous. I tend to think that they probably could stand to be more outrageous. But, you know, I also think that that is a matter of perspective, right? Because I know people who are like, oh, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, it was no big deal. But it would be to someone else, you know, like a lot of people would never think of starting a conference. A lot of people would never think of, you know, doing a podcast. Like a lot of people have podcasts now, and several people have conferences, but 2011 is when I started my conference, and you didn't find people with, you know, small brands like mine really getting into that conference space. And so I'm like, well, I've been doing events for years. This is just another kind of event. So it actually didn't feel that outrageous until it started leading to press and other jobs and opportunities that I realized how unique it was to be who I was doing what I was doing. So I would say, you know, maybe starting that conference was probably something pretty outrageous and big. And it was really fun too.
Nice. I love it. So what is, if you could pick one person who's helped you to get to where you are right now, who would it be?
I'm like, don't even finish that question. And it's just because there are so many people along the way that I could never pick one. And, you know, the cop-out answer would like have to be my mother, right? Like, oh, she supported me since birth, and not to diminish what my mother has done, but obviously she's the one who's like loved me and helped me since the day I was born. But I think, you know, if we're thinking specifically about my business, it's like, I feel so grateful. And my conference kind of came out of this as well. it's like there wasn't one person. When I was putting my conference together and trying to think of a focus, like I couldn't think of a focus. And I'm like, okay, well then what I will do is give a platform to a lot of the people who've helped me along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at that crop of, 10 or 12 people, most of them were women. And I've never bought into that thing that women are catty or don't support each other. But when I was thinking of who had helped me, it was even more of like a reinforcement of that. Like, these are people who have made referrals for me, made introductions, they've hired me, they've taught me things, they've coached me, they've bartered with me, they've co-worked with me. There's so many different ways that people have helped me along the way. Like, there's no way I could pick one person.
Well, and the reason I asked the question is because so many people, they feel like they don't need to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
They're scared to ask for help. But my point is that we do need help in order to grow. We can't have a business just by ourselves.
Absolutely.
So we try our own stuff. So we need
Absolutely.
help. So yeah, I like your answer. It helps making my point.
Yeah. And, there are certain things that I could be better at getting help with, but I've learned along the way that you have to ask for help. And often when you don't, it just means that you getting to the place where you've achieved your goals is that much further. Sometimes all you need to do is ask the right person. And it's not that they're going to give you any kind of handout, but they could answer a question or give you a resource that's going to shorten a learning curve, so much more than you spending hours Googling or, sleepless nights awake. I just, there have been so many people along the way, and you've definitely got to ask for help.
Agreed. So if you could tell your 15-year-old self anything, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. My 15-year-old self. Oh man. My 15-year-old self, I think it would probably just be, I don't even know. It's like I know, but I'm like, which piece of advice would I give? I think my 15-year-old self, maybe things aren't going to go the way you think they're going to go, and that's totally fine. But the funny thing about telling that to your 15-year-old self is your 15-year-old self is not going to hear it.
No.
It doesn't matter.
And so on that same account, if you could give a little nugget of advice to a future budding entrepreneur, what would you tell them?
I talk about planning a lot. Obviously, that's part of my business, systems planning. And I like to tell people that planning is important. You should absolutely plan. I plan every day. I don't do the same kind of planning every day, but there is some kind of planning I do every day. And so you should always have a plan, but your plans aren't set in stone. They can't be changed. And I like to look at a plan as security in a way, because we all know life doesn't go as planned. No matter how much control we try to have, things go wrong. Tech doesn't work, the weather changes, like whatever, things happen. But your plan gives you something to fall back on. So if things get off track, you always have something you can lean on. And if you don't have a plan, that's where we tend to flounder, right? Like, we get off track, we do things haphazardly, and we have no sense of the way things should be. But if you've taken the time to create a plan and you get off track, you can go, okay, I have something to lean on. I may just need to shift my expectations or my timeline. And you're able to be much more resilient and bounce back from any negative things or any setbacks that you may face.
I like that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your next big goal? What is it that you want to accomplish next?
Ooh, boy. I think the immediate thing is, it's right about planner season right now. And that's what my physical product is. I have a planner line. So to have a really successful planner season, and each year it's grown. Fortunately, it's grown more than the year before. So I'm hoping for an even more successful planner season this year. But I really think that the next kind of new thing that I want to do is start working with more large companies. My passion is small business, and it will remain there. But just being practical and going back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of diversifying my income, working with larger companies for lunch and learns or team trainings or things like that on a more corporate or enterprise level, would give me more flexibility to work with more of that small business population that has a different budget and a different set of needs. So for me, I do want to start working in some of those bigger clients into, you know, into my client family, but my heart is always going to be with small business, and that's actually the most fun as well. But yeah, that's my next big new goal.
Love it. Love it. What is your must read book?
Well, you know, I think for people who are figuring out how to tell their story, which is really essential in business, a book that I love is called Body of Work by Pamela Slim. And it's great for people who have a diverse background. So, you know, if you've done a lot of different things, sometimes it's like, well, how do I tell a cohesive story? This book
Mhm.
really helps with that, whether you have a business or you have a job. And so I think that that one is really essential. And another one I really like is a book called Rework, and it was written by the people who created the software Basecamp. And it just gets you thinking about different ways of working and not sticking with the status quo. I love to read, so I could list books all day, but I think those are two that are probably relevant for, you know, big dreamers out there.
Good, good. I like that. Thank you. I've
Mm-hmm.
had those to my list. So your favorite quote, what is it?
Oh, so many favorite quotes, but I pulled up one for this occasion. And it's by a woman named Anne Sweeney. And the quote is, define success on your own terms, achieve it by your own rules, and build a life you're proud to live.
I love it. It's perfect for this summit. Definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. Um, so like how we participate in your movement? Where give us your social media following. How can everybody get in contact with you if they want to hire you or they need to talk to you?
The best thing to do is go to my website, which is alaiawilliams.com, ALAIA Williams.com. You'll find my social media there. You can join my email list. I've got free resources like my list of favorite free tools to grow your business, a guide to streamlining your business. So there are a lot of great free resources there. You can find my podcast there, my social, and that's the best way. And if you would like to have me help you talk to you about organizing your business, or you just have questions about what that looks like and what you might need, you know, just head over there, click the contact page, and I'd be happy to chat with anybody out there who's watching.
Definitely. And Alaia has provided you guys with a free gift. If you'll scroll down to the bottom of the page and click the link down there, you can get signed up for her free gift. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be part of the summit and check out what everybody else has to say. So thank you so much for doing it.
Oh, thank you. Have a good one.
You too.